It's good to be back in Morriston and in Libanus. Now, it's holiday season at the moment. I'm hearing a lot about people's plans for holidays or coming back from holidays. And it's been on the news, isn't it, a lot? Because people have had all these plans for holidays and then they get to the airport and what's happened? There's no aeroplane, or there's no one to take their luggage, and all these plans and hopes for these weeks away are suddenly gone. They're looking for them. The train's now on strike, you can't get anywhere. The ferries, there's problems with the ferries, everything, everybody saves up for years for these holidays, and all of a sudden the hopes of a rest, the hopes of a bit of relaxation are gone. Now, why is it so much news when we hear about that? Well, because we all need a break, don't we? We need rest, we need a holiday. And you might think, well, I'd love to have one to look forward to. Even if it was snatched away from me, I'd love just to have one to look forward to. That would be enough for me. But even if we long to have one to look forward to, it proves the point in that we need rest. We need a break. We need peace. Now, when we come to the passage I want to read today, Jesus talks about rest, deep rest. And so often we can be on holiday, we can be out lounging by the pool, or we could be on our weekend away, or we could be in the garden and we're resting, but actually deep down there's no peace. Yeah, we might be on holiday, but still the reality of life and all the worries we have keeps crowding around our mind, and still, even though we might appear to be relaxing and resting, in our hearts there's no deep rest. You can sleep but not have a good sleep. Do you know that? Apparently there's 4 stages to sleep. It usually takes about 90 minutes to get to REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, and then you go into deep sleep. So there's light sleep, something else. But anyway, you can go to sleep, and if you don't get that deep sleep, then you don't really know a good rest. You don't really know a good sleep. So you can have a physical rest, you can have external rest, but Jesus in this passage, he talks about soul rest, deep rest. So let me read a few verses to you. This is what Jesus says. He says, "Come to me, all who labour and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. My yoke is easy and my burden is light." I wonder if you've ever had the experience where you've been resting, you've been quiet, but actually inside there's just lots of noise. Yeah, lots of things crowding around in your mind. And there's no deep rest, really. Well, Jesus wants to explain that to us today, explain our restlessness, and he wants to give us hope in our restlessness as well. So, why are we so restless? Why is it that we can't seem to stop? Why is it that our minds and our hearts are all riled up? Well, we might be tempted to think, well, I'm okay, I don't need rest. I'll just get by, I'll keep going. But Jesus' words here are a bit like a survey on a house. When you have a survey of a house done, if you buy a house, you need somebody to check it and have a look around it. And often you hear bad news from the survey. So you're paying someone to tell you bad news. And you're paying them a lot of money to tell you things that you don't really want to hear. But without the expertise of a surveyor, you can end up in deep trouble, can't you? If they don't tell you what the problem with the foundations are, or the problem with the rot, or the roof that's about to collapse, then a few years down the road you're going to be in deep trouble. So you're paying somebody to tell you and analyse the situation and telling you news that you don't really want to hear. Well, Jesus in this passage is telling us something that we might not want to hear at first, because he explains why our hearts are so restless. He says, "Look, come to me, all who labour and are heavy laden, and I'll give you rest. Those who are weary," that's another word for it there, "those who are weary and heavy laden." Why are we so weary? Why do we keep labouring? Why can't we find rest? Well, here's a few reasons. One might be this. You might think in your life, or might have thought when you were younger, if only I had that, if I have this thing, then I will find this rest, then I'll find this peace that I long for. But you get that job, or you get your family, or you get that spouse, you get that house, or you get that car, and it doesn't take away that restlessness. It doesn't bring the peace that you hoped for. And so you keep striving, you keep trying, you keep labouring on. And what happens? You get the more money, you get the bigger house, you get the bigger car. Maybe you get another spouse. And still there's a restlessness. Just no peace. You're trying to grasp it, but there's nothing there. Or maybe there's a restlessness for acceptance with other people. In this passage that we're looking at in Matthew 11, just before, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. And the Pharisees are those who make these religious rules up to try and make themselves right before God by their own effort. So if they keep the right religious rules, then they'll be accepted by God, is what they think. If we can just try harder, if we just roll up our sleeves, then God will accept us. Maybe you know what that's like. Maybe you know what it's like to try your best and hope that God loves you. Maybe it's not just towards God. Maybe it's acceptance with other people. You just want other people to love you. And so you know what it is to try hard to prove yourself to others by how good you are in your role as a parent or grandparent. Maybe to try hard in your role in your family. And you want people to look at you and say, oh, they're a good grandparent, they're a good friend, they're a good neighbour. And you just try hard. And you never feel good enough. Just keep on trying. I don't know if you've seen the film Chariots of Fire. It's based on a true story, isn't it, of Eric Liddell. And he was an Olympian in Paris in 1924. And he refused to run on a Sunday, and because of that he missed out on a gold medal. There's another person in that story as well called Harold Abrahams. And both of them were runners. They both running against each other. And Tim Keller, in one of his books, points out this. He says, look, they were both running the same race, but internally something very different was going on. He says this, at one point, Abrahams was running and showing he was running to prove himself. He says, I've got 10 seconds to justify my existence. The reason he existed was to run that race as fast as he could. But Eric Liddell, what about him? Well, he knew that God has accepted him. He trusted in Jesus. And he said this, God made me fast, and when I run, I feel his pleasure. So this is how Tim Keller puts it helpfully. He says, Harold Abrahams was weary even when he rested. And Eric Liddell was rested even when he was exerting himself. Why? Because there's this work underneath. There's this battle to justify ourselves, to make ourselves, to show others that we're good enough. Are you weary today of trying to prove yourself to others, and you just can't keep it up? And you keep on trying, and you think, I failed again. We're restless, aren't we? We're weary. Maybe today you're weary because of guilt. You feel heavy laden with the wrong that you've done, the regrets that you have, the things that you've said to people, or the things that you didn't say to someone and you wish you had. And there's just no shaking it off. You know you failed. You know you've let people down. And you're weary with it. Maybe today you're weary because of sad things, sorrow in your life, just burdens and trials that you're going through. And it seems to be one trial after another. And maybe you know what it is to feel like you've cried so much that there's no tears left. Just weary. Why are we so restless? Now Jesus wants to explain. I said, look, you're weary and heavy laden. There's so many burdens we can carry in life. What is it for you? But Jesus doesn't just leave us there by saying you're weary and heavy laden. He wants to help us experience rest. How does he do that? Well, he speaks into this restlessness. He speaks to these weary, burdened people, and he says, here's 2 commands. Come and trust. Come and trust. What does he say? He says, look, this is what you need to do. Does he say, here are the 10 things, 10 rules or 12 rules of life. If you do these things, you will find rest. Does he say, here are the hoops you have to jump through. Here are the places you have to go. No, he says, come to me. Jesus says, come to me. It's all about me. If you want to know rest and peace, it's about coming to Jesus. Now, why is it about coming to Jesus? Well, remember who Jesus is. The Bible teaches us Jesus is God in flesh. God in the flesh. He has come to this world to show us who he is and what he's like. And we were created to know God. Think of it, the Bible says, isn't it? God made the world in 6 days, on the 7th day he rested. We were created, humans were created, and then we were given a place of rest. So we were made to rest in a relationship with God. The problem is we've walked out on God. And so everybody now is restless, longing to be back in that relationship of rest with God. The problem is we can't get there on our own. So what does God do? Does he say, well, you had your chance, that's it? No. We're told here Jesus is gentle and lowly. He stoops down to our level, and Jesus came to rescue us. He came to offer us this rest. So he says, look, come to me. Come to me. But not only that, trust in me. Strange what he says next. He says, I will give you rest. How? Take my yoke upon you. What's a yoke? It's not from an egg. It's a yoke is something that they put on an oxen. And then they put something heavy behind to kind of pull up the field or a plough, something like that. So he says, look, I want you to take on a burden, my burden. I say, well, that doesn't sound very restful. But here's the problem. Sometimes we can think it's either Jesus' burden or my freedom. At the moment, I haven't got a yoke, but Jesus is saying, take his yoke. I realise we've all got a yoke. There's something that all of us are kind of pulling and that is carrying us. What is it for you? What is it for you that is your master? What is it for you that is that you do whatever it says? You follow whatever this thing says. Maybe it's your dreams and your hopes. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your work. Whatever it is. We can be restless because we're just obeying this master. None of us are free. We've all got a yoke. And Jesus says, I want to be your master. Because I'm a master who loves you. I'm a master who will give everything for you. I'm a master who laid down my life for you. So he says, my yoke is easy. My burden is light. How is Jesus' burden so light? Well, think about the cross. Jesus, when he was on earth, spoke with authority. If you read through the Gospels and the stories of his life, he was a man who was in total control, wasn't he? He was, when somebody asked him a question, he wasn't flustered. He spoke to these people who would criticize him with such power and authority, and people were in awe of the way he taught. When people were brought before him with these incurable diseases, he with a touch could heal. Nothing flustered him. Middle of a storm where hardened fishermen were terrified for their lives, Jesus stands up and says, be quiet, to the storm, and it's still. But on the night when he was about to die, what do we see Jesus like? He was sweating drops of blood. He was under such strain. He was in a mess. He was restless. He was heavy laden. He was weary. Why was that? Well, he was taking our yoke on him. He was taking our burden. He was taking our weight on the cross. And in our restlessness, there, he took it. So that we could know his peace. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Our restlessness for his peace. So because of Jesus' death on the cross then, because he was gentle and lowly, because he bent down, stooped down to our level, we can know peace. So today, are you feeling discontent? A restless discontent, longing for more, wanting the next thing? Jesus says, I've died so your soul could be filled. I've died so you could know the God who made you satisfy your heart. He's the one you're longing for. Maybe today you're restless, longing for acceptance. You want people to love and accept you. The only one we need acceptance from ultimately is God. And through Jesus' death on the cross, we can be accepted once and for all. Maybe you're feeling weighed down by guilt and shame today. And there are words you've said that you just can't shake off. Things you've done. People you've hurt. Jesus says today, I know them all and I can forgive you. That's why I died on the cross. Perhaps you're feeling sorrow and grief. Jesus says, I know. I've been there. I've been through intense darkness and sorrow, and I can carry you. Cast your burden on me. See, there's no master like him. When he says, carry my yoke, it's a light yoke, rather than the burdens that we already carry. So swap them over. He takes our burdens so we can have his wonderful freedom. Perhaps today you're looking at your burdens. You're looking at the things that cloud your mind. You're looking at that noise that you can't seem to shake. You think, where can I go to get rid of it? Who can carry it? Well, Christ says, I'm enough. I'm enough. Look to him. I remember reading this illustration that the preacher Spurgeon used. He says, imagine someone goes to London and they see the millions upon millions of people. I know it's always a shock to me to go to London. You just see, where are all these people coming from? You're just there and just piling on, the trains after trains, just loads of people. And then imagine this person says, well, how are we going to feed all these people? These people are going to starve. There's not enough food to feed these people. And then Spurgeon says, but then you imagine you take the same person to the factories, the food factories, and they see the tins and tins of food. They see the bread being made. They've seen the food being, the chocolate there, the meat that's there, and they think, well, how are we going to eat all this food? There's so much food here, it's going to go to huge waste. You see the difference? There's a focus, a shift in focus. When you look at the change of focus to what is provided for, well, suddenly you think, oh, there's enough. So instead of looking at ourselves today and thinking, I've got to sort all this out, look to Christ. He is enough. He'll satisfy. He'll cleanse. He'll forgive. He'll renew. He'll restore. So maybe this summer you haven't got a holiday planned. Maybe you haven't got a holiday planned for a long time. Jesus says, I can give you deeper rest than you can ever know in Tenerife. I can give you a deeper soul rest you can ever know anywhere else. because I offer you the rest that you long for. Listen to those words again. Jesus says, come to me, all who labour and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. So Christ offers you satisfaction, peace, contentment, acceptance, forgiveness. What do? Go to him. That's it. Go to him and say, Jesus, I need you. Just call out to him and he'll respond. You might not know everything or understand everything that means. Doesn't matter. Just say, Jesus, I need you. Somebody said that faith is like an opening of a clenched fist. Just saying, yes, Jesus, I need you. Work out the details. Christianity Explored, those kind of things can help with the details. Just turn to Jesus today. He will give you the rest that you long for.